The rig you see is an ECX Barrage, and I went with the kit version because I knew I would break things, and when it comes time to fix and replace, it helps a lot if you built it yourself. Plus, I didn't like the color or stickers on the RTR. I built the kit exactly the way it says, and then the first thing I replaced was the tires. The ones included are more like road tires, and I knew just looking that the treads would fill up with dirt and snow, becoming useless, and I was right. The guy in the store recommended these that you find on the new Traxxas TRX4, and they turned out to be grippy and great for going over logs and boulders, but created some problems. Number one, they rubbed the body, but I soon realized they wouldn't if the body had not come with holes drilled slightly off, and I'll show you how I fixed that by first removing the body. And to do that, I need to reach in behind and pop off the tarp over the bed full of gear. At least it's supposed to look that way. You can see here the automotive fastener that plugs into this hole. Works great, and the fake load doesn't make the rig top heavy. I used to have bubble wrap under here, but turned out I didn't need it. With the clips out, you can see here how I created Styrene Donuts to reinforce the new holes I made. More accurately, I used a rat tail file to elongate the existing holes into ovals since they were only out by 3/16 of an inch. Doesn't sound like much, but moving the body back that much made all the difference. Second problem caused by the big TRX4 tires was reduced turning radius. This was after I had done work to improve it because of how bad it is straight out of the box. I tried the shock absorbers in 10 different positions so the springs wouldn't rub without much success, and finally wound up searching the internet for some skinnier shocks. Here's what I found. They're internal spring aluminum body air shocks from hot racing. They bolted right on down at the axle, but bushings and longer hardware were necessary up top. Lucky for me, I had these super sweet miniature nuts and bolts left over from my large scale model railroading days. By mounting the shocks can down, I was able to screw them straight to the shock towers, giving them this inward slant, which is cool. No more rubbing, tight turning radius restored. Not just that, these shocks are feather soft, have the perfect amount of droop, and provide smooth articulation. Where you really notice the improvement is dampening. The rig doesn't bounce at all like it did before. Strangely, you see it best driving flat out over rolling terrain. Now, I realize the rig isn't meant for that, but with these shocks, you can't resist. And they look amazing. So the TRX4 tires, super good, except for making the rig look like a monster truck. So as soon as the snow was gone from the forest, I mounted up these Amazon.com wheels and tires, which are the perfect combination of lugs and looks too, if you ask me. I got all four for the price of one Traxxas tire. I was even able to lower the body as far down as it can go, helping out even more the scale-like appearance. Batteries. Long before the tires went on, I'd thrown away the included NiCad in favor of these little lipos that run basically forever. The battery tray and annoying Velcro went next, replaced by these bungee cords, which are just thick hair bands, believe it or not, wrapped around the cross members and cinched with cable ties. For crawling, you don't need more than that, and I can quickly swap in and out batteries of different shapes and sizes, like this one and this one, that are left over from my model airplane days. Another thing to get trashed week one was the disappointing stock steering servo, which could not turn the wheels left and right when the rig was in a crawling situation. Every legitimate crawler needs to do that. I ordered two servos, a pricey Savox and a cheap one that I wound up liking better, only because it was slower, therefore a little more scale the way it moved. It's high torque with all metal gears. My rig always seems to wind up in the creek when I crawl, and the servo has never let me down, so they weren't lying about it being waterproof either. The tie rod here is one way I improved the turning radius. Before I bent it here and here, it would hit the pumpkin and stop. A side benefit of the new bend is a shorter rod, making the alignment go from toe out, I don't know why the engineers wanted it that way, to tow in, which, if you ask me, is better for performance and looks. Somewhere along the way I played around with trying to gear the thing down. It's hard to find pinions that fit because the motor shaft is like a stick pin, but I managed to go from a 22 to an 18, try that, and go right back to the 22. I hated the sound of the 18 tooth. It was loud and grindy and scared away the rabbits and squirrels. Maybe the noise was on account of it being hardened steel and not brass, or maybe the teeth were cut differently. Either way, I couldn't stand it. Didn't matter. The rig has all the torque it needs. Same goes for the motor as far as power, if you're into scale crawling, which I am. And so far the 390 has been bulletproof. What did let me down happened in here and sent me home in 3-wheel drive. Turns out the bull gear rides on a plastic spindle that strips out way too easy. With help from the guys on rccrawler.com who had it happen to them, I was able to find aluminum replacements on the internet from people who ship to Canada without charging what amounts to extortion. But I was lucky. I should explain that I put the new metal one up front and moved the good plastic one to the back so that when it gives out, it will be easier to change. Another thing Barrage owners can expect to fail are the bearings. It's good that there are ball bearings all over the kit, but they're not waterproof or even water resistant. They rust and come out in pieces. I have now replaced all mine with blue waterproof Traxxas bearings. Not an overly expensive upgrade, and everything is way tighter and precise, especially the steering parts. Even with waterproof bearings, I run my rig on the greasy side. I lube the drivetrain with bike chain oil and everything else that moves with 3-in-1. I can feel and hear the difference, so it must be doing some good. Here's a tip. I use sticky mountain bike oil on the U-joints and keep the drive shafts bone dry. Oil, even spray on Teflon, creates a seal that traps air and water at one end, turning the driveline into a shock absorber. Just pulling the sections apart on the bench can be surprisingly hard, ending with a pop sound, so dry is better. Not much to say about the electronics, really. They're basic, no nonsense, no problems to report. The transmitter fits nicely in a backpack and demands only that you remove the ugly stickers and wrap hockey tape around it. So much for the innards. Let's talk about the body. It comes unpainted, trimmed, not well in places, and drilled, like I said, too far forward. I airbrushed the inside of mine, brown mixed with red. To avoid the clear coat look, I did 5 coats on the outside of pure red. I cut my own window masks. It's not hard, and the results are better than if you use the ones provided. I love how it turned out, exactly what I had in mind. Where it has been scuffed, the brown is showing through nicely. The kit comes with LEDs in the bumper, which did not last long. So here up front, I mounted a couple of tops from pocket flashlights that I got at Canadian Tire, a trick I learned from my model railroading days. They're super bright, easy on and off, and have their own power source. The weight they add to the nose is a good thing. They were aimed up at the sky at first on account of the backward slope to the grill. This was pointless for headlights, so I blasted the nose with a heat gun and kept it back with this brass tube that also slips through eyelets on the back of the nacelles. Everything is strong and watertight. These here screws I liked so much I put in 2 more just for show. The grill is made from a section of bike chain cleaner. Other homemade touches are the door handles, wipers made out of cable ties, indestructible foam mirrors, goofy hood scoop, and racks which get caught on low branches every time. If you're going to crawl alone, you need a winch. Mine is made out of locomotive parts and, again, just for show until I can rig up a servo winch somewhere under the hood. The dynamic recovery rope, which actually works, came off my daughter's backpack. The tow hook and D-shackles are from Amazon and look pretty good in 1/12 scale. The license plate is one that I found on the internet and printed on my inkjet printer onto photographic paper, and then it's trimmed and held on with thick double-sided foam tape that I found at Canadian Tire. Overall, I'm happy with the way it turned out. It's only meant to look good from a distance, and it does to me. It's not super scale, but if that's your jam, you don't buy one of these in the first place. As for the logos, I'm not the kind to put free advertising on my possessions, but I've been a member of the co-op since the 80s, so I guess that makes me part owner. And if there's one thing I'm always up for, it's good times outside. Thanks for watching.